welcome back for episode number 149 of the weekly playback. We are almost to 150, which is half of 300, which is really exciting. I've been doing this for a few years and it's just really cool to watch the number get higher and higher. Anyway, it's a really hot day, so I have the AC on across the room, in the room across the hallway, and I might need to turn on the AC in this room as well, depending on how hot it gets, because these ring lights cause me to feel really hot. So we'll see if I can manage without, but you might see me anyway, so let's just get started. Let's talk about Red Carpet. This is a 2025 game for 2 to 4 players designed by Anna Lucchini, Canals, Pau More Gomez, and Eloy Pujadas. And the art is done by Albert Montes. And this is published by Devere, and I received this review copy from Devere Games. So in this game, you have a red carpet and different movie stars are gonna be going down the red carpet and you are trying to photograph them and score the most points. So I'll show you all the components and then we'll talk about how it plays. So you are going to have this red carpet board, and it's really cool. As I showed in the unboxing video, the red carpet is a different material, so it actually mimics a carpet. So it's like this cool felt material, and there's circles on that because that's where you're going to place all of the different people that you are going to have to place. And this is where you're going to be placing your phones on your little tripods that you will receive in order to take photos over here. And on this black part is where you're going to have 2 barriers each on each side. And on these are the different companies represented by these icons, which the different actors are sponsored by. So when you try to photograph your actors, you can gain more points if their sponsorship icon is in the photograph that you take. But we will get into all of that when we start discussing how to play. So again, you're going to have 2 barriers on each side, and on one end of the red carpet is where the limousine drops everyone off and the actors will come onto the red carpet, and on the other end of the red carpet is where they will start coming off of the red carpet. And then on the end where they start coming off is where you're going to have this board placed with all of the cards of the actors on them. So here there will be 1 actor, and these are just randomly placed. So you're going to have 1 actor placed here, and that actor will be receiving the Lifetime Achievement Award. So any points you earn for that actor are going to automatically be doubled. So whoever was randomly placed here will have this token placed on them to show that they are getting the Lifetime Achievement Award. The rest of the actors, you are going to be nominating for awards, and whoever wins the nomination in that particular category, their points will be doubled as well. So you're going to randomly place the actors, and on top of them, you're going to randomly place these sponsorship tokens so that you see which actor is associated with which sponsor on these barrier boards. So again, this is 1 category, 2 category, 3 category, and you are going to be voting not blindly. You're going to secretly vote if you want to as one of your actions to show which actor you want to win an award. So that's how that works, but when we get into gameplay, I'll get into all of that. And I know I said during the unboxing video that everything fits nicely into this box. That is not the case if you want to keep everything on their stands, which I definitely do because there's so many of these people that it would be a pain to have to put them into their stands each time. So I want to keep them on their stands, but unfortunately, if you keep them on their stands, they do not fit into the box then as nicely, and there will be box lift. So each person gets 5 scoring markers, and this game is played over 5 rounds. Oh, so these are the actor cards which you will be placing out onto this awards board as indicated, and it shows you that the maximum number of points you can receive for any 1 actor is 10. Even if you photograph that actor more than once, you can never have more than 10 points for that particular actor. So again, these are going to be randomly placed out onto that awards board. And these are the limousine cards, which you're going to shuffle, and once per round, you're going to reveal a limousine card. And then according to this diagram here, you're going to place those people on the red carpet. So suppose this was right next to the red carpet like this would indicate in which positions I place just random people. So the people that are in black are just random people that you don't want in your photographs. And it also tells you which direction they're facing in. So for example, if this was placed right next to the red carpet over here, it shows me that these 2 random people are facing in that direction. So they're going to be facing this way. And the direction in which people are facing really matters because you're going to be trying to turn them around in certain ways and so on. And then the two red ones indicate the actors. So you're going to take the actors that you have, so each person, there's a pile of actor cards, and you're going to shuffle these and place them in a face down pile, and by the end of the game all of them will have been used. So for each limousine, you will draw two actors and then place them where they are indicated on the limousine card onto the red carpet. And then you are ready to begin. And if there were already actors in those spots, you're going to move them down the red carpet. And if anyone gets pushed off, then they are out of the game if they're an actor. However, if they're one of these random people, then they will probably be reused because you're going to need to reuse those people as the game progresses. And then you're going to deal each person 5 photograph cards, which look like these. So all these cards are going to have an actor depicted on them. They're going to have an action of some type and a number associated with it that you can stand on to take a photograph if you want. So when it's time to play, I will talk about how you decide where you're standing and what actions you can take, which is, I guess, what we're going to get into right now, because I think I've gone over all the components. And I think I showed you guys the tripods that you will be using to play this game, because you are going to need to use your phone in order to actually take photographs of these actors on the red carpet. So when you play, you have one of 3 actions available to you. So again, you're going to be dealt 5 cards, and the first player marker will rotate from round to round. So one of the actions you can do, and you're going to be using a card in order to do every action that you take. So one of the actions is to get a spot right behind the cordon. So these things are called cordons, apparently. So that means you are going to use one of the 5 cards in your hand in order to indicate where you want to be standing behind the cordon. So here's a good example. So you're going to look at these orange numbers, and as you can see, I have 2 5s and 2 1s. So not too many options here. So I can either stand in position 5, 1, or 2 on either side of the red carpet if I want to take that action in this round. And you definitely do. You definitely want to try to take a photograph in every round, unless you think you can somehow really set yourself up for a great photograph in the next round. But I really don't think that's going to be worth it. But then again, what do I know, because I lost? But I did take a photograph in every round, as did my opponent. Now, when you decide where you want to stand and you discard a card in order to take that action, it can be on either side of the red carpet. So you'll notice that 5 is over here and 1 is over here on this side, but on this side, 1 is over here and 5 is over here. So that does give you a little bit more flexibility in terms of taking a photograph of a movie star. However, do bear in mind again that the people, they do come onto the red carpet from one side, so your new actors are going to be over here, whereas the older actors that have already been on the red carpet for the previous round are going to be on this side, closer to the award stage. I don't know which side is the start, but we'll just pretend that this side is the start and that is not. So you can take a photograph of an actor you took in a previous round, but again, you can only score a maximum of 10 points per actor. So it might not be worth it unless you've nominated the actor for an award and you think that you'll get double points. So you might want to do that. But you probably want to stay close to the new actors. But again, what do I know, because I lost? So who knows? So that is one action you can take by discarding one of your 5 cards and choosing the position that you want to take in order to take a photograph. Another action you can do with your cards is to vote. You're going to nominate actors for awards, and that is when you simply take one of your cards and place it face down onto the voting pile of this awards board. So again, you have this awards board and you're going to place your votes face down over here, and those votes will be tallied up at the end to see who wins in each of the 3 categories. And again, the categories are those columns. So whoever has the most votes in a category at the end of the game, your points for that person will be doubled. So you can vote for different people. And finally, the last action you can do is to actually do these various actions that you see over here. So now let's talk about the various actions, and there really are only 3 of them. This one means you can turn a person so that they face you. So you can turn someone 180 degrees, because when people are on the red carpet, they're facing one side or the other. There's only there's only two directions they can face it. They can either face this way or face that way. They're never going to face forward, and they're never going to face the limousine. They're only going to face the photographers one way or the other. So that action allows you to turn them 180 degrees. The other action you can do is this one, which means that you are calling for someone's attention. So suppose I am over here, and in order to call for someone's attention, you must have already placed your tripod down to indicate that you will be taking a photograph from that location. So let's suppose I had placed my tripod over here, and there is a movie star located here, and I want them to be closer to me so that I can take a better photograph of them and hopefully get more points. I can use this card to call their attention, which means that they will move over here and the person who was here will move over here. So you'll start to see the competitive nature of this game, because if someone has their tripod here, they're going to want the movie star closer to them in order to get a better photograph for themselves. So that is call to attention. And then finally, this one is to push. Move a person forward. So this would allow you to move a person forward towards the stage. So again, let's pretend that this is where people are entering the red carpet and this is where the stage is. You're going to want to push them in this direction then. So every time you push someone over, if there's someone in that space, they get pushed forward, and if there's someone in that space, they get pushed forward, and so on. So you are going to be also pushing people forward. So by using these different actions available to you, which is to call for someone's attention, move a person forward, and turn 180 degrees, you are trying to position actors in a certain way so that you can get the best photograph of them. Because if you can get the best photograph of them, you will get the most points. So now let's talk about points, because now we are basically at the stage. So after everyone has taken 5 actions, so used all 5 of their cards either to vote, to take a spot behind a cordon, or to affect one of the actors in some way, then you are ready to take photos. Now, only people who have positioned themselves behind the cordon will be taking photographs. Now you are actually going to put your camera on your tripod, set zoom to 2, and the rule book specifically says that you must set your zoom to 2, and then you will take the photograph. Now, you can move your angle a little bit, but you must always be within your section, okay? So it says you may slightly change the angle of your mobile phone if the case or any other elements get in the way of the figure's faces. And then you're going to take a photo. And then depending on how good your photo is, you will get points. Now, it may be that the actor isn't even looking at you, but you can still get points for them. So the first thing you're going to score for is looking at you, kid. You will get 3 points if the celebrity is facing you, which again is why you would want to use this action in order to turn them 180 degrees to face you. So 3 points if they're facing you, 0 points if they're not facing you. Close-up. You will get 2 points if the celebrity appears in a close-up with nothing obstructing the view of their head and shoulders and no other figures in front of them. So again, there's examples here. So if they're facing you, if they're close-up to you with no one obstructing them, then you will get 2 points. And again, they don't need to be facing you in order for you to score a close-up. So if you got a close-up of someone's back with no one obstructing them, you can get 2 points. Front and center. You will get 2 points if the celebrity is in the same row as your tripod. So if you took a photo of someone who is in the same row, so if I'm in position 1 and they're like directly in position 1 in front of me, that will earn you another 2 points. But if you took a photo of a celebrity 1 position over, you will not get points for that. And that is again why you would want to use this action, which is moving people forward, because maybe you wanted to move forward so that you could get points for front and center as well. Entourage. Subtract 1 point for each entourage figure whose face is clearly or partially showing in the picture. So if you have these randos in the randos are actually the red ones. So if you have these randos in the background that you don't care about and you can see their faces in your photograph, you will lose 1 point for each rando's face that you can see or partially see. And then finally, advertising. You will add 1 point for each sponsor logo matching the one placed on that celebrity. The logo must be clearly visible in your picture. So as you're taking photos, you'll also want to try to get their sponsor logo in the photograph, and you'll get a point for each one that is showing. And then after you calculate your points, you will place your score marker on the celebrity card for the score that you just scored. And that will be your score for that celebrity. And again, a maximum of 10 points, then that could be because you take photographs of that same celebrity later on, but a maximum of 10 points per celebrity. So after that, you'll have used all 5 of your cards, and now it's time to go to the next round. You will be dealt 5 new photograph cards, and a new limousine will pull up, and a new celebrity will come out, new entourage people will come out, and you will adjust the red carpet accordingly and continue in that fashion until the end of the game. Then at the end of the game, you're going to count up all of the votes on the awards board. And then the celebrity who received awards in 3 categories and the Lifetime Achievement Award winner, who was decided at the beginning of the game, will give player double points. So wherever your score marker is on a celebrity card, if they won an award by getting the most votes in their category, that is their column, then your points for that celebrity will be doubled, which is really great. And it says the rest of the nominees simply give players the points indicated by the number under their marker. And then whoever has the most points wins. It says if there is a tie, whoever has the most points from winning celebrities wins the game. If there is still a tie after that, then the victory is shared among the players. And that is the game. So essentially you are just having celebrities come onto this red carpet with different entourage people behind them. And again, the entourage people are the ones on the red standees, and the celebrities are the ones on the brown standees. So apologies if I mixed that up when I was showing you how to play, because automatically I think red celebrity, red carpet, but yeah, no, don't get confused like that. So yeah, it's a fun little game. It's a fun little filler game, though not really a filler game because it's a little bit too long for a filler game. But if you are just looking for something kind of light and fun to play, this can be that game. The only downsides I see to this game are that number 1, you have to use your phone, and number 2, you're going to have to get up and move if you put your phone on the other side of the red carpet from which you are sitting. So it's going to require you to get up maybe multiple times, and maybe require you to get up if someone else needs to take your seat in order to take a photograph. So this is a game that uses technology, uses phones, so you're going to have to just deal with that because there's no other way to play this game. You simply cannot play this game without using a phone. So every player needs a phone, and you're going to need to be flexible and being able to get up and move around during gameplay. So would not recommend to play if people are really tired and they just want to sit and not do anything, and just don't play this game then. So otherwise it's a fun game, and it really does it's a fun game. You really feel like, oh cool, I really want to get a picture of this celebrity, and you're trying to manipulate them, and then it gets undone, and then you get angry, and then you have to figure out what to do. So there's a bit of tug of war going on. So in a 2-player game, there's definitely going to be a bit of a tug of war going on with the different celebrities. So I imagine it plays better at a 3 or 4 player count, because then less of a tug of war and all players are trying to affect all the celebrities. So there will be a little bit more uncertainty in a 5-player or 3 or 4 player game rather than a 2-player game. So this only goes up to 4 players, by the way. So so it's 2 to 4 players. So so that is Red Carpet. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, then you should check it out. And thank you again to Devere for sending me this review copy. So let's move on. Let's talk about Ace of Spades. This is a 2025 game for 1 to 2 players, designed by Benjamin Amarin, and the art is done by David Rubin, and it's published by Devere. And this is a review copy which I received from Devere. So I played this solo. I did not play it in the cooperative 2-player mode. Now this is kind of like a boss battler game with poker cards. So each person is going to get this board, and this board is going to be used to indicate how many attempts you have in order to defeat a certain monster, and how many life points they have in order for you to defeat and it's also going to indicate how many times you can switch out cards in your hand. So up here, when you get a new monster, you're going to place the monster up here, and that will indicate how many life points they have. So just to illustrate, for example, let's suppose this is the first one I need to defeat. This mule has 5 life points, so I will place him up here and set this dial to 5, and that indicates I have to beat 5 of his life points. And then you're going to look at the next card that is on your deck of people and creatures that you're going to need to beat, and that will indicate to you what you're going to set the bottom 2 numbers at. So it'll tell you how many gun loads you have, which is 3, so that's like 3 shots. That's 3 attempts for you to kill the monster, and this would indicate that 3 times you can either discard some cards and draw new cards, or you can renew the deck, like shuffle the entire deck. So yeah. And then of course you'll reduce the dial anytime you attempt to inflict damage on the monster, or you do discard and draw or renew. But at some point, if you have a jammed gun, you can play a hand of 5 cards dealing 0 damage and reduce the hand's dial by 1, and then draw all 5 new, new cards, 5 new cards. Okay, but you are going to have a hand of 8 cards. So you start the game with 8 cards, and whenever you play a hand in order to inflict damage, even if you're playing 2 of a kind, for example, you must play 5 cards. So if I have 2 of a kind, for example, these aces, I still need to play 5 cards in total, so that will allow me to then draw 5 new cards. So let's suppose I have a pair, then I'm gonna discard all of these cards, see how much damage I inflict. But before we get into that, I want to talk about constructing the deck. So you are going to have this board, and on top of this board is where you're going to place all of the creatures you need to defeat. So the first card you're going to pick is one of the Lord Overkill cards. So there's 4 to choose from, I believe, or no, there's 3 to choose from, and that depends. Oh, sorry, actually, let me see. Lord Overkill. Yeah, there's 4 to choose from because of different difficulty levels. So when I was playing, I chose easy. So he would have 50 life points, and this would be the bottommost card that I place on top of here like this. But again, there's other cards you can also choose from, and you're going to actually choose your Lord Overkill card based on the difficulty level you want. So here is normal, here is hard, and here is nightmare. So there are 4 different difficulty levels for you to choose from when playing this game. And again, you're going to pick one and place it face down on this board like this. Then you're going to go to the next set of cards and shuffle and pick one randomly. So the next set of cards is going to have the number 12 on it. So let me find, I believe it's 12. I think it goes up to 12, or maybe it's 10. No, it's 11. No, it's 10, sorry, because your Lord Overkill is number 11 and the bottommost is number 12. So yeah, the next card is going to be number 10. So again, you have 4 cards you can pick from. You're going to shuffle and pick one randomly. So here is an example of a number 10 card. And you're going to do that for all of the numbers, going all the way up to Ace of Spades. So for each number from number 1, from Ace of Spades all the way up to number 11, there are 4 cards for you to choose from. And you're going to pick one and stick it on, and then you will have created your deck of monsters that you need to defeat, which will then have Ace of Spades on the top, and then numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then 12 on the very bottom. So I'm going to just pick the deck that I had created when I was playing, and then discuss using that. So where is normal? Here we go. So I had this deck on top of this when I was playing. So it would look something like this. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way down to the bottom board. So yeah, And when you defeat a monster, so when you play a monster, you're going to flip it over and again adjust everything on your board according to what you see. So my first one that I needed to defeat was a scorpion who had a life of 5, and I looked at what card was next to determine what my dials were going to be set to for the bottommost dials. So I would have 2 gunshots in order to kill him, and I would be able to do the draw or renew action twice if I needed to. So then you're going to shuffle all these cards very thoroughly, except for the Joker card. You are not going to be using the Joker. You can defeat a certain monster, which may give you the ability to use the Joker, but it's not something that you start with. So you take out the Joker card and set it aside. And you shuffle all of these cards, and then you're going to draw 8. So again, you always have 8 cards in hand to play with. And then you're going to try to create the best poker hand you can in order to inflict damage on the monster. And then you're going to see here all of the different poker hands you can create and how much damage it inflicts. So obviously, the best kind you can create is 5 of a kind, which would inflict 12 damage. And if you use a Jack, Queen, a Jack, Queen, or King, for each Jack, Queen, or King you use in order to inflict damage, and it must be part of the cards that are used to inflict damage, not the additional cards you are adding in order to reach up to 5 cards. It has to be part of the cards used in order for you to create your poker hand. Then for each one of those you use, you would gain an additional damage. And if you used an ace, that would give you an additional 3 damage. So let's suppose I had a pair using 2 aces. A pair typically gives you 1 damage, as you can see here, but because I used 2 aces, that would be an additional 6 points of damage for a total of 7 damage. Now, when you defeat a monster, you're going to either put it to the side or underneath your board, depending on which kind of an ability it will give you in order to use on subsequent turns. So this one is a special one-time ability, so I would put it to the side, and I can use this ability at any time I am playing and then discard this card. So whenever you defeat a monster, it's going to give you either a special ability, one-time use, or an ongoing ability. One of the cards I defeated gave me an ongoing ability, so let me show you that one. So yes, this one is an ongoing ability I had. If you play a straight, it inflicts 6 damage instead of 4, but not if it is a straight flush, because a straight flush inflicts 10. But this would allow you to inflict damage of 6 instead of 4 by using just a regular straight. So this would be tucked underneath your board, and that's where you will see all of your ongoing abilities. So if it's a card with an ongoing ability, you tuck it underneath your board so that you see it at all times. Otherwise, the cards that will give you one-time abilities are placed off to the side, and you can use them and then discard them after you've used their ability. So that is essentially the game. So you're always going to see when you reveal a new card what you are setting your dials to. So again, you're going to see on the cards themselves what the dials will be set to. So let's suppose I'm farther along. I will see that farther along when this card is showing, so meaning I'm currently working on monster that's number 7. I can set my guns to 3 and my renew and draw ability to 3 as well. So I lost when I believe number 6 or 7 was showing. And the reason I lost, and I want to show you the card that I was trying to defeat because I thought it was pretty hard. So let me find the card I was trying to defeat. You could not use, yes, I was trying to defeat number 5 actually, so I didn't get that far. I was trying to defeat this waiter, and I needed 20, he had 20 life points, so I needed to inflict at least 20 damage within, and I believe the next card that was showing, because this is number 5, so the next card that I had showing was this one. So I had 3 tries, gunshots, and only 2 of these to try to get the cards I needed to kill him. So yeah, so he was really hard to defeat because you cannot use queens in your hands against this villain. And I just happened to be getting queens when I was trying to defeat this villain, and I was getting really bad hands. So unfortunately, I could not defeat him and the game ended there for me. But yeah, it was a fun game. It's like if you enjoy poker and you just want something fun to kind of pass the time, then I would recommend this game. Again, I did not play it in a cooperative mode, so I don't know how fun that is, and to me it seems like this would just be an enjoyable solo experience. I can't really imagine that it would be fun as a cooperative game, because like, you know, the decisions you're making are like, okay, do we draw again? Do we try to get better cards, or should we just inflict damage and then hope when we draw after inflicting damage we get better cards? Like, these are decisions you can just make yourself. Like, I don't understand how you would really play this cooperatively, but I didn't read the cooperative rules to see if it changes a little bit. But solo, it's perfectly fine, especially if you enjoy poker. So if you enjoy poker and you enjoy board games and you're just looking for a fun solo experience to pass the time, then I would definitely recommend the Ace of Spades. And again, I have no idea like how you would even defeat a monster with 50 points. But again, as you're defeating more and more monsters, you're going to be accumulating more and more abilities. Unfortunately, I did not have an ability that could really help me at the time that I needed to defeat that waiter or whatever he was. So yeah, so I lost. But I'm definitely going to try again at some point and see if I can win, because it's one of those things where I feel like you're just always going to try and do better and better, because it's like you just, you know, at some point you just really want to win. Like, you'll just really want to win this game. So I think it'll just keep on calling me back, and I'll keep on getting frustrated every time I die and cannot win. You know, it's poker, so there's also going to be some luck involved. But yeah, but I did enjoy my experience of playing this. So again, if you enjoy poker and you like board games and you are looking for a solo experience, then check out Ace of Spades. And again, thank you to Devere for sending me this review copy. So let's move on. Let's talk about Kronologic Paris 1920. This is a 2024 game for 1 to 4 players. It is designed by Fabian Griddle and Johan Levitt, and the art is done by Arch Apilar and Jan Valiani, and it's published by Ori Games and Super Meeple. And this is a copy which I purchased myself. So this is a deduction game, and it's a really fun deduction game. So I played 4 games of this, and it's really cool because it's not like solving the same puzzle each time. So without giving too much away, I will talk a little bit about it. So each person is going to have a screen, and it's really cool because your screen shows you all of the characters on the back. So when you're facing someone else, you can see all of the characters and what initials you'll be using for them to jot things down on your own sheet. And then on this side of the screen, you'll see all of the other important information that you need. So that is very helpful. And then you're going to have this board between both players, and that's going to show you the map that you'll essentially have on your own sheet that you're going to be working off of. So, but it's just nice to see that this in the center if you need a bigger visualization of it. And then on your own sheet that you're going to be working off of, you're going to see the map under each time number. So time 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So this game takes place over like 6 different times. Like the mystery you're solving, there's 6 times in which things could have happened. And so the clocks represent the different times. And then in the center, you're going to see the people, and on each of the people next to them, you're going to see the different rooms indicated so that you can jot down notes. So essentially, you are going to have these placards, and the placards are for the different characters as well as the different times. And on each placard, you're going to see a green slot and a white slot. When you get information, you will share what you learned that's in the green slot with everyone, but keep what's in the white slot for yourself. So now let's pick a puzzle, and let me just show you how it kind of works. So you're going to decide which puzzle you want to solve, which mystery, and then you're going to take all of the cards for that mystery and place them face up on the table. And then when it's your turn, you can decide what you want to investigate. So you can investigate one of these rooms associated with a certain character or a certain time. So let's suppose I want to investigate the stage with the adventurer. I would place this underneath like this so that information appears. So this is the information I can share with everyone, which shows that the adventurer was at the stage a total of 2 times. And this is the information I would keep to myself, which means that the adventurer was definitely at the stage during time 2. And then you would put this back face down, and then it would be the other player's turn. Sometimes you might not get any useful information, in which case you'll get a symbol telling you to go again. And the go again symbol looks like that. So if you see that in the slot where for yourself, then you would immediately go again. Now, if you place it under a time thing instead, so let's suppose I placed the stage underneath this time placard, what that shows is at time 6, there was only 1 person at the stage. And then it shows me who was there at that on the stage at time 6. So it'll actually show me one of the people. In this case, we know it was only this person because it's only 1 person who was there at time 6. But sometimes it might show you there was 3 people there at time 6. And then it'll just show you who one of the 3 people who was there. So yeah, so that's how this game works. So you're going to take turns basically deciding which room you want to investigate with which time or with which character, and you are just taking notes on your own sheet in order to deduce the mystery. So the cool part about this game is that the mysteries are different. So for example, the very first game we played, we had to figure out who killed the detective in which room and at what time. But then another mystery we played, we had to figure out so there was like a stolen jewel, and the jewel would move along with the thief. So like, for example, if the thief was in a room with 1 other person, then the jewel would pass to that person. However, if the thief was in a room with 2 other people, then the thief would keep the jewel. So we know in which room the jewel and the thief started. So the mystery tells you, okay, the jewel is located in this room at this time, at time 1, with this person. And then you have to figure out where that person moved in each time, and figure out by the end of the at time 6, you have to figure out where the jewel is and who has the jewel. Yeah, so really cool. So different mystery. Another time we had a mystery where we had to figure out who the Phantom Opera was. And the Phantom Opera was a person who was always in a room by themselves. So they were never in a room at any time with any other person. So that's a really cool thing about this game, is that the mysteries are different. So you're not going to have the same mystery each time, which I really like about this deduction game, which definitely makes it stand out from other deduction games that I have played. The downside to this is that it is not replayable. So once you do a mystery, you might remember, you know, the solution. I feel like, you know, you can still come back to it like much further down the line where you would have forgotten. Like, who's honestly going to remember who, you know, killed so-and-so, like who killed the detective in which room they were in. Like, after playing a million games, I'm not going to remember that. So at some point I can come back to the mystery, but definitely not anytime soon. So you do come with, the game does come with 3 boxes with 5 games in each box. So there are 15 scenarios for you to play, which is nice. So maybe after playing 15 games, you can then come back to the first one if you really want to. So in that case, I would definitely recommend laminating some sheets, which I'm definitely going to do so that I can, you know, play this more, because I feel like it doesn't come with enough sheets either. But yeah, a really cool deduction game. And if you enjoy deduction games, highly recommend this. Like, I think it's very well done for a deduction game. So I really enjoy this. And I really enjoy the fact that everyone can play this, that it's not like someone has to be like the game master. Like, everyone who is playing this can play this, which is really cool. So yeah, so that was Kronologic, and if you enjoy deduction games, then I highly recommend it. And apparently there are some other ones that have come out. So there is a Cusco one and a Babylon one, which I definitely want to check out after I get through this. So I really enjoy this, and I highly recommend it if you like deduction games. So let's move on. So let's move on to games that I'm backing. I'm still backing Colosseum, and at the time of shooting this video, it looks like it has 3 days left, and it has raised over 300,000 euros with over 2,600 backers. So still backing that, and I am still backing Cozy Cafe. So let's see how much time that has left. So that has 11 days to go, and it's raised over $172,000, and it's unlocked a number of stretch goals. So yeah, still backing that as well. So we'll see about that. I still have time to decide on whether or not I'm going to keep that. I don't have any new arrivals to show, so let's move on. So just a quick note, I have been doing giveaways for games that I'm culling, and I really want to start that soon. Sorry, things just get away from me. I know I'm the worst. Like, I always say I'm going to do something and then I don't do it. I just get really busy. In my defense, I've been working more diligently on my own game design, but I know that that's not a very good defense. Like, I really should make time for culling and cataloging my collection, which I was doing pretty well for a while, and then took this very long break. So I want to resume cataloging and then culling as well. And if you are someone who won a game in a giveaway, please get in touch with me if you want to receive that game so that I can actually ship it out to you. And if you are interested, I'll just list some games off of the top of my head, which I'm planning on culling but selling instead of just giving away, in case you're interested in buying one of those and want to combine and save on shipping. So again, my deepest apologies to the people who won games and haven't received those games yet, who were waiting for me to talk about which games I might have that I want to sell, so in case they wanted to see if they wanted to buy any. But yeah, please email me and I will do my best to get your game to you. And I'm gonna really do my best to start culling my collection again, cataloging and culling, because yes, I just have too many games. Okay, so I just wanted to make a quick note on that and let you know that I haven't forgotten about you if you want a game. Okay, so let's move on. One thing I forgot to mention, which was really cool, I got to see a behind the scenes, I got a behind the scenes look at the Strong Museum of Play in Rochester, New York. So that happened like maybe a couple of weeks ago, which was super cool. So I got to go down into their basement, like their top secret basement, and see all the cool stuff they have there, which the public doesn't get to see, which included lots of pinball machines. So I'll post some pictures here. And it included lots and lots of board games, and board games from different designers' collections. Like, they had a ton of board games from Alan Moon's personal collection and some other designers and so on. Very, very cool to get a behind the scenes look at all of that stuff and see how they catalog things. And toys, there were so many toys down there as well. Just very cool to get a behind the scenes look. And if you haven't been to the Strong Museum of Play in Rochester, which is the National Museum of Play actually, it's really cool because the video game section is really awesome. And they have these giant screens and you can play vintage Nintendo on and see it on this giant screen, and other people might be waiting and they can also watch you play. So I did that and I realized how bad I am at Nintendo now, many years later. I was one of those very lucky kids who did have a Nintendo set when it first came out. So yeah, so my parents did, were able to afford that and buy that for me and my sister, which was really nice. And so when I was really little, I did play video games, but nowadays I don't play video games. Like, I actually don't own a console and I haven't played video games in forever. Like, I think since I was like in middle school or high school. So it's been a very long time. What else do they have? So they have like a whole cool video game section. They have like a console where you can play Oregon Trail, which I did, which was fun. And then my oxen died and I was trying so hard to trade for an oxen, or an ox, I guess, because maybe oxen is plural of ox. And I was trying so hard for like 10 minutes. I'm sitting there trading and trying and trade for one, and no one would trade with me in order for me to continue on my journey. So I just gave up and left it and decided it can be someone else's problem when they come and sit down. And then I played Atari, which was very cool. Like, just so many cool things you can play there, and just a very cool museum if you ever get a chance to go. So I just wanted to mention that because I forgot to mention it before. Okay, so now let's move on. So for this week's fiction book club, because I was very bad and I did not finish it for last week like I was supposed to, but I did for this week, we finally finished Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. So there was a bit more action with the fire, so that was interesting, I guess. But overall, my thoughts are that yes, it is a cozy read, but not interesting enough for me. So that is my final verdict on this book. Like, I like the characters. I think that they're really sweet, and it's a very, very cozy read, but there just wasn't enough for me to keep me entertained. Like, the mystery of the Scalvert Stone wasn't enough. The other creature trying to get the Scalvert Stone, like, that wasn't enough of a fear in this book. The romance that was budding, that was nice. The lead up to that was nice, I feel like. But overall, just kind of a little bit of a disappointing read for me, for someone who's used to a little bit more mystery and a little bit more fleshing out of a plot, like, you know, a thickening of a plot. Like, this just did not have that for me. And now I'm kind of regretting having bought the prequel to this, because now I'm not sure I actually want to read it. So I might sell these books. So yes, I might sell them because, you know, they weren't the most expensive books, but they weren't the cheapest either, because they are like these hardcover, like special, like limited edition or something. I got them from Amazon, which I know I should not support Amazon, but like, ew. But yeah, I did. But yeah, so maybe I'll just sell them or something. I don't know, but I'm not really too inclined to read the prequel now. So let me know your thoughts. You know, it's cute, it's cozy, but just, I guess, cute and cozy by itself, I guess, is not enough for me. I think I need more than that. So the next book we're going to read is The Free People's Village by Sim Kern, which I am so excited to read because we are currently reading their book Genocide Bad for the nonfiction book club. So now there's going to be some overlap where we're reading 2 of their books at the same time. Maybe I'll shoot them a message on Instagram and let them know. But yeah, just but anyway, so for next week, let's start this book. And so I just want to take a look at the chapters and see what they look like and how much we should read. That's not too bad. Yeah, I say let's read the first 5 chapters. So let's start with the lab on page 3 and end on page 32. Like, that seems like a doable amount for 1 week, I would say. So yeah, so read the first 5 chapters for next week. I'm actually gonna steal this bookmark so I can mark that down. So yeah, so if you haven't gotten this book yet, do get it and look at the inside cover. It just looks so freaking awesome. Like, this cover is just so freaking cool. I just really, really love it. And the inside here, like, I'm super excited to read this. Yeah, so I really like their writing style in their nonfiction book, so really excited to see what their writing style is in their fiction book. So yeah, so excited. So please get this and join us in reading The Free People's Village, a novel by Sim Kern, and read the first 5 chapters for next week. So let's move on. So for this week's nonfiction book club, we were supposed to read chapter 8, Criticizing Israel as Anti-Semitic, which starts on page 115, and we were supposed to end at the end of the chapter, which is quite long, on page 173. Unfortunately, life got really busy, so I only read half of this chapter, so I'm only going to discuss the first half. So I ended on page 146 just before this new section begins. So the section I read is all about Sim Kern and learning what their Jewish identity means and learning some really interesting Jewish history from like medieval Europe, which I found really fascinating. So that is the part that I have read. And then for next week, we're going to get into the part that's relevant to today, which is why I stopped using the term anti-Semitism. But for this week, we will focus on the first half of this chapter. And again, I apologize for not reading the whole thing, but it ended up being more than I had time for. So one of the first things that I highlighted on page 115 was that where the author says, it doesn't matter how tepid, normalizing, and equivocating your opposition to genocide is, anything less than a total endorsement of any and all atrocities committed by Israel, and Zionists will charge you with being anti-Semitic. So yes, you will get charged with being anti-Semitic, even for, you know, even a little bit of, you know, criticism of what Israel is doing or not endorsing everything that Israel is doing, you will be labeled as anti-Semitic. But the author says that fighting anti-Jewish hate necessitates fighting Zionism. So they decided to, you know, start getting into how they learned about anti-Semitism and the prejudices that they experienced growing up. So they grew up in a rural town in America, in which they were the only Jewish family in that town, apparently. And so they experienced, you know, anti-Jewish hate. But, you know, the author didn't always interpret it as anti-Jewish, just that these kids that, you know, they were friends with maybe just didn't know better and were using the swastika as a hate symbol that they would have used in any, like that they would have used any other kind of hate symbol as, and so on. So the author talks a lot about their identity as a Jewish person growing up. And the author says, all the prejudice I experienced was interpersonal, and I can't point to any times I faced structural or systemic oppression for being Jewish, the way Black, Indigenous, and undocumented populations in the United States do. And I think that that is very important to point out before we start getting into what the author experienced and what their, how they came to form the ideas that they have. I will say that reading what the author went through reminded me a lot of my childhood. So at one point, this author talks about how they were getting bullied, and this one other person stood up for them. And the other person that stood up for them was like this kind of like butch girl, like, kind of like not super feminine girl. And she stood up and she told the bully to stop. And then the bully stopped bullying Sim. So when I was in the 3rd grade, I got beaten up very badly on the bus. And I do not know to this day why. So there was no explanation for it. I'm just sitting there, like literally just minding my own business on the bus, sitting next to this girl. I like literally wasn't talking to her, wasn't doing anything to her. And out of nowhere, she starts beating the shit out of me. And when I say she's beating the shit out of me, I'm like seriously beating the crap out of me. Like she's like pulling my hair, she's punching me, she's sitting on my head, she's punching all the different parts of my body. I'm just like, and I couldn't do anything. Like I was such a wimp. Like I had no muscle. I'm just this like really tiny, skinny kid who couldn't fight back. And what caused did the bus driver stop? No. So just like Sim experienced, like when, the teachers and everyone would see what's going on, no one intervened. The bus driver, all the kids at this point on the bus are yelling and screaming as this girl is beating the shit out of me on the bus ride home. So this was on the bus ride home, not to school. And everyone's screaming and shouting. The stupid bus driver did not stop. Only the beating came to a stop only when one other girl, who happened to also be like a masculine kind of girl, stepped in and finally got that girl to stop beating the shit out of me. And I remember that girl, her name was Alicia, and she was a twin. And I was just, so grateful to her. I didn't know her. She was a grade above me in my sister's grade. And yeah, it was just really I was just so grateful that she came in and got this girl to stop beating the shit out of me. And then my mother reported it to the principal and nothing ever became of it. And I will point out that I was like the only one of 2 non-white people in my entire grade in that elementary school. So I don't know if it's racism. I don't know what it is to this day, but no one ever punished this girl. Nothing became of it. And that was that. So I kind of related to what Sim went through. So I just thought I'd mention that. The author mentions that anti-Semitism is a Christian invention, and I had only ever experienced anti-Jewish hate from white Christians. And I think that that's important to point out because as Muslims, I'm a Muslim, we are not taught to hate Jews. And I've explained this time and time again that in Islam and throughout Islamic history, Jewish people are what's considered to be people of the book, and they are to be respected as such. And so we would not engage in anti-Semitism, especially because Arabs are Semites themselves. But I know that anti-Semitism has come to be associated with meaning anti-Jewish, and no one uses the word anti-Semitism to talk about anti-Arab hate, although Arabs are Semites as well. One thing that the author points out is that it's Israel that teaches Jewish children to hate Palestinians, which I've seen so much evidence of, which, the Zionists that are always posting on social media will never show you. The author says, the bullying I faced at Redling was not anywhere near the scale of intensity, and yet it devastated anywhere near that scale of intensity. And they're talking about a Palestinian girl who was faced a lot of bad fascist mob behavior from Jewish people in Israel, or Zionists in Israel. And the author says, and yet it devastated my mental health. So the author is saying this so that you can understand what Palestinian kids who live in Israel have to face, because everyone's, Zionists, you'll always see them saying, oh, Israel isn't an apartheid state, there's Palestinians who live in Israel, yet they'll never, never, never acknowledge the things that Palestinians have to go through if they are, in fact, living in Israel. They will never be treated the same, the laws don't apply to them equally, and so on. But they will ignore all of the bullying and the horrible behavior that Palestinians have to face if they are living within Israel proper. The author later on says, victimhood is such a central facet of Judaism that Jews who have lived sheltered lives of extreme privilege sometimes develop a perverse desire for persecution. And the author says, These are the hysterical Zionists who show up to the Free Palestine protests and start screaming and crying about how they feel unsafe, even though no one is touching or even talking to them. I've seen videos of this. Like, I've seen videos from Palestine protests where you'll see these Zionists come in and they'll wear like provoking shirts, they'll like hold the Israel flag, and they'll like stand in the middle of a bunch of Free Palestine protesters and they'll be like, I am not afraid. Like, there was this one seriously cringy, embarrassing video of this Zionist standing saying, I am not afraid. I am not afraid, in the midst of all these free Palestine protesters, and not a single person cared about their existence. Like, no one is paying attention to her, and she's acting like she's doing this big act of, like, you know, bravery by going here when no one gives a shit about her. Like, it is so cringeworthy, but I've seen so many examples of this. They just want to, you know, perpetuate victimhood so that they can get everyone on the side of their genocide committing, you know, state. But no, that's not going to happen. Yeah. The author talks about how they wrote a story or a poem called Proud of My Blood, and they used it on their application for Harvard, and they got in. So the author says, confirm the Zionist narrative and doors of opportunity open. Criticize Israel and they slam shut. And we have seen that time and time again since the genocide began in October 2023. How often have we seen that those who are on the side of Israel, standing with Israel and the genocide, have so many doors open to them, and people who have jobs have lost their jobs for being openly anti-genocide, for being openly against the genocide and against what the state of Israel is doing. So 100% true. So then the author goes into this whole section of why they hate us, which I found so fascinating because it has so much history in it that I just never knew. The author says that anti-Jewish persecution did not start with the Nazis, and then they go into medieval history, which is so freaking interesting. So they talked about like how Jews became associated with Satan, how this blood libel thing started, like, you know, how this myth started that Jewish people eat children and all of that. Very interesting stuff. So I'm not going to regurgitate all this history, but like I highlighted quite a bit because I just thought it was really fascinating. But then, you know, the author always brings it back to today. So all these prejudices and these things that Jews faced, they are now, the Zionists are doing themselves. And I like how the author ties these medieval, these medieval prejudices that they faced to today and what they themselves have become. Like, I really like how the author does that. One thing I want to mention is the word Cabal. So they say the word Cabal is derived from Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism, and has historically been used as a dog whistle to describe fictions about Jewish elites engaging in the kind of global imperialism that Christian elites have actually been doing in the open for centuries. I only highlighted that because I feel like there's a podcast or something with the word Cabal in it. I cannot remember, but I really feel like I've seen that word somewhere in the board game industry, and that there's some content creators who are using that. And I wonder if they know that, if they know what the word Cabal means or its origins. I just thought that was interesting, but I feel like there's some content creator who uses that word in their name. So let's just talk about how they bring back things to today. The history about the pointy hats was really interesting, and how pointy hats came to be associated with witchcraft, and how Jews were forced to wear these pointy hats, and because they were thought to be these like people engaging in magic, and over time these pointy hats became to be associated with witches and wizards and stuff. Very interesting. Oh, one thing I want to mention on page 137, they mention a board game. So they say, while a few USCN Jews of my generation know anything about the history of the pointed Jewish hat, this association was still alive and well in the 1930s Germany, where a company called Gunther & Co. released a board game called Huden Raus, Jews Out. Players were tasked with collecting 6 pointy, conical Jewish hats from around the board and delivering them to a roundup location, where presumably the Jews would be ethnically cleansed from the community. What fun. Isn't that so interesting that as we are reading this,
on my channel for this book club that we can tie it back to board games. Like, and it's a pick up and deliver game, a very bad pick up and deliver game about, you know, rounding up Jews to ethnically cleanse them. But isn't that crazy that there was actually a board game like that? Like, insane. But we should not be surprised, because we've seen some really bad board games that should just not exist. But just so interesting that we can tie it back to board games. Like, that just kind of made me happy that they mentioned a board game that existed. Like, wow. And we were seeing that today, by the way, like as the genocide was continuing on, like I recall someone trying to make a board game about the genocide, about trying to kill Palestinians. And I posted it on my Instagram even. It did not gain any attention in the board game community, of course, even by all those people who claim to be anti-colonization. Not one of them talked about this board game that was about killing Palestinians. Go figure. Yeah, so the author talks about how, you know, Jews were required to wear badges in medieval Italy and so on, and, you know, and how they were you know, so it was Jews and prostitutes, sex workers, who were required to wear badges that were similar to each other. And the author talks about how, in my mind, so, you know, this is for sexual humiliation. The author talks a lot about sexual humiliation during this time in medieval history. And the author says, in my mind, this sexual humiliation of medieval Jewish women rhymes with the rash of social media posts by IOF, Israeli Occupation Forces, soldiers over the past year, in which they have dressed up in the clothes and lingerie of Palestinian women. How many videos and photographs have we seen of IOF soldiers, like, going through Palestinian women's underwear drawer and like wearing their underwear and lingerie as like some sick joke? It's disgusting. Like, it's like, what is your fascination with Palestinian women's underwear? Like, really fucking messed up. And the author says that this is an attempt to humiliate Palestinian women. It says, so the punishment for medieval women in Viterbo of being stripped naked in the street, which happened to women back then, also echoes with the frequent practice by IOF soldiers over the past year of mass arresting civilians in Gaza, stripping them to their underwear, blindfolding them, and exposing them to the elements, which I've seen photographs of. Just really, really horrific. The author says that the Catholic Church was hemorrhaging land and power to Protestants, and this existential threat sparked a surge of authoritarianism. So it says, you know, early Protestants compared covenants to brothels and regarded monks and nuns as men and women who devoted themselves to idleness, gluttony, and dubious sexual morality. So according to this medieval logic, if nuns were sluts, then Protestant nobles were justified in stealing their property and displacing them to Catholic lands. This is important because what are the Palestinians doing? If Palestinian women are sluts, like, look at this lingerie, then we can just steal their land, and it justifies us breaking into their homes, stealing everything that they had, including just their jewelry, their private, you know, possessions, everything. So it says, European history contains a long tradition of justifying land grabs by portraying the women who live there as sluts, blaming victims of violence for their own assault on the basis of the victim's alleged promiscuity is a hallmark of what feminist scholars term rape culture, a society where sexual assault is normalized and trivialized. So it says, Israeli forces and settlers have weaponized rape against Palestinians since the formation of the State of Israel. A third of female soldiers in the IOF report not just raping Palestinians, but a third of female soldiers in the IOF report sexual harassment on the job. 1 in 5 Israeli women report having been raped in their lifetime, and nearly half of those reported assaults were committed against minors. So one thing that people are not aware of, but which is 100% true, if you have a claim to Israel, meaning, you know, you can do aliyah because you are Jewish or have some Jewish blood in you, Israel doesn't care if you have a sexual assault record or any kind of a record in America. You are welcome in Israel. And that is why people keep on saying that Israel is a pedophile haven, because there are so many people in America who are convicted pedophiles who, or just before being convicted, will escape to Israel to avoid conviction. So that's why people call Israel a safe haven for pedophiles, because there are in fact a lot of pedophiles in Israel who went there by escaping from here in America. Yeah. Oh, here's one thing. Throughout the 16th century, male church reformers insisted the walls of convents be built higher and topped with spikes. They installed grills on the windows and turned convents into Renaissance-era max security prisons in the name of protecting the virtue of the nuns. Sounds like the siege of Gaza to me, the author says, 100%. The author talks about the ghettoization of Jews and how it was both about money, power, and land all along. The author says, in the propaganda the Catholic Church employed against nuns and Jews in the 16th century in order to justify this land grab is like a blueprint for Hasbara seeking to justify the genocide and theft of Palestinian land today. And then the author goes into a history of why Jews are associated with banking. And they go into the banking history and how usury was forbidden. So the Catholics, in order to get around usury, which is interest, charging interest, which is forbidden in Islam, and to this day still by devout Muslims is practiced by many devout Muslims, and many Muslim countries forbid usury as well because it's strictly forbidden in Islam. But today Christians have forgotten about that. But back then Christians were trying to avoid usury. So in order to get around that, they had the Jews become the bankers because they were able to lend and charge interest and so on. And then the author starts talking about how in Poland, Jews were employed to be estate agents, and then they were the people who came around to collect rent for the nobility. They were the face of the taxman. So this is how Jews came to get that image of being greedy, money hungry people, because the Christians back then could not or would not engage in money lending with usury. They didn't want to be the ones who were the face of tax collecting. So the Jews did it, and they're the ones who got that image of being these money hungry, greedy people when they were doing it for the rich and powerful who were Christian, in fact. So it says, these Jews enforced the evictions, land theft, and oppression of Christian peasants that served the interests of wealthy elites. Jews in Israel are still patsies for a richer, whiter, and more powerful Christian empire in the US of A. 100%. So then the author says, there was nothing particularly special or mysterious about anti-Jewish hate. Hate is hate. Hate is hate. All that hate for anyone who didn't bend a knee to the Pope was manufactured to justify killing people and taking their stuff. Same as it ever was. And that is where we end, and that is where we will continue this chapter. So we will continue with this chapter on page 146 for next time, which starts with why I stopped using the term anti-Semitism. And so we will read the rest of the chapter from 146 all the way to 173. So please, for next time, continue reading and let's learn why the author stopped using the word anti-Semitism. But again, so interesting to get that background on Jewish history in Europe and learn, where this hate came from, where this imagery of Jews came from. Just very, very interesting stuff. So I hope you enjoyed reading it as well. I really enjoy this author's writing style because they make academic writing, which is, this doesn't even feel like academic writing because it's more like popular nonfiction. It's way more palatable than reading something like The 100 Years' War in Palestine, which of course is very important reading, which is why it's the first book we read. But this is so much more palatable and easy to digest. So really love their writing style. But let me know what facts you thought were interesting from the first half of this chapter in the comments below, what you learned, and just anything you found interesting and how you might be able to relate it to the genocide today. So let's move on. So in this week's rant of the week, I want to kind of keep it a little bit short, but I do have a few things to say. So the first thing I want to say is, as I mentioned in last week's video, Zohran Mamdani, who is a Shia Muslim, and I talked about what kind of a Shia Muslim he is in last week's video. So in case you missed it, Zohran Mamdani is the person who won the primary mayoral Democratic election Democratic Party election for the mayoral election of New York City, and they are a socialist and they are a Muslim, and they are a Shia Muslim just like myself, a 12er Shia Muslim, Ithna Ashari Shia, but they are Khoja, which means that their ancestors migrated from India to Africa and settled in Africa. So there's a large Shia Khoja population in Africa that has since migrated to England and the United States. Before hearing of Zohran Mamdani, I actually had friends with the last name Mamdani who are also Khoja. So yeah, but I just want to talk about a trend that is taking place on TikTok right now, where so during the mayoral debates, at one point Mamdani says the name is Mamdani, learn how to say it. And he says this to Cuomo because Cuomo was being a total asshole, and he was purposely, I think, mispronouncing Zohran Mamdani's name. And so Mamdani was basically like, the name is Mamdani, you should learn how to say it. You should learn how to say it because I'm gonna be the mayor someday. So he was basically saying that, and it was just very cool. So this sound clip was taken and turned into this really catchy song on TikTok, and it goes like, the name is Mamdani, Mamdani, the name is Mamdani, you should learn how to say it. And people have been, it's a really catchy tune. I'm like a terrible singer, so don't take my word for it, just go on TikTok and find it. And so many people, not just in New York City, but around the world, have been making videos to this song, and they've been showing their excitement for the fact that Zohran Mamdani won the primary, and all their captions are like, yes, we're so excited that Zohran won, Zohran is our mayor, and then they'll list where they're actually from, and it can be a totally different state or even a totally different country. So people all around the world are singing to this song on Twitter, on TikTok, I mean, and it is so exciting to see. Exciting, especially for me as a Shia Muslim, to see someone who has gained so much support around the world. And I want to talk about the fact that he is a Shia Muslim because, there is so much anti-Muslim hate in this world, and especially in the board game community. I see it so often in the board game community. Like, people will make comments and posts, even in groups like the board game group on Facebook and other groups, and they'll like very casually state something that's anti-Muslim, and everyone's just supposed to laugh and be okay with it. And no one, if I happen to see it, I'll say something, but otherwise, like, I see no one else actually stepping in and being like, hey, you're an anti-Muslim bigot. Hey, like, this is bullshit. Like, why are you saying this? It's so normalized. It's so normalized all around the world to be anti-Muslim. Like I said before, it's the one type of bigotry that is not frowned upon. It is not called out by everyone. Like, everyone knows it's bad to be a bigot against blacks. It's bad to be a bigot against Jews. It's bad to be a bigot against people who are homosexual or trans. It's bad to be a bigot against Asians. Like, these are things that everyone, like good, decent people, kind of acknowledge, right? And will stand up and speak against. But people do not do the same for anti-Muslim hate. And I don't know if that's because Islam is a religion and people think it's fair game to just hate on people who practice a certain religion. But then again, what about Jews? I'm sorry, but like, what is Jewish culture? Like, Jews are of many different cultures. So you can't say that Judaism is a culture. Judaism is a religion. Judaism is a religion, and these people are of different cultures, whether that's Polish or Hungarian or Russian. Like, those are their cultures where they originated from. If they're Ashkenazi Jews, if they're Sephardic, then they are maybe from Morocco and they have Moroccan culture. But Judaism is a religion, just like Islam is a religion, yet anti-Jewish hate is frowned upon, whereas anti-Muslim hate is not. So it's really upsetting to see, how many people in the board game industry are just so openly anti-Muslim without any issues. And no one will step up and say anything to them. Not even the so-called, social justice warriors, the, diversity, equity, and inclusion activists in this industry. I see them active in these Facebook groups. I see them posting and stuff. Do they ever step in to condemn anti-Muslim hate? No, I've never seen that, not once. It's always me, if I see it, commenting and saying, hey, like, no, Muslims are not terrorists. Muslims are not this. Like, your joke about bombs and Muslims is just not funny. Like, it's not funny. So, I don't see anyone else doing that. That's the first comment I want to make. The second thing I want to say is, so I'm really excited that Zohran Mamdani won the primary, and I'm excited to see people talking about it. And one of the people who is, of course, talking about it is Eric Lang. So I just want to talk about one of the few of the posts he made and why he still infuriates me to no end, as he always does. So I know. So Eric Lang made this post, and I just want to read it. And then, of course, I'll post a screenshot. He made a few posts recently that I want to talk about, which have infuriated me. So yeah, so the first thing he said was Democratic leadership's and Democratic media reaction to Zohran Mamdani winning the NYC primary is emblematic of why this party is broken. They are unfit to lead America until their leadership is 100% replaced. The USA absolutely needs to focus on saving what's left of your democracy, if anything. But what's the point of returning to the same shit that disenfranchised the majority of the working class in the first place? Correct. But first I want to say, like, you know, you are the same person who was encouraging people to keep this shitty Democratic Party. Like, you were the one who was encouraging people to vote for the genocidal bitch Kamala Harris. And now you're acting like, now that we see that it is possible for a true leftist, someone who is a proclaimed socialist, to win, now you are just kind of going back on things that you were preaching during the elections. Like, oh no, you have to vote for the lesser of two evils, blah, 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 blah. Like, bullshit. Like, so Eric Lang to me is someone who, you know, will just go along with the majority of what liberals believe and say at the time, and is fine with it. And liberals, I'm sorry, but liberals are the reason we are where we are today. Like, Democrats today, like the Democrats in office, what the fuck are they doing for the people? Absolutely nothing. They're doing absolutely nothing. Yet again, we had another filibuster by Hakeem, I think his name is Hakeem Jeffries or whatever, an 8-hour filibuster in which he's like, good trouble, good trouble. And what the fuck is good trouble when you don't even talk about it? You don't even explain what people should be doing. You yourself haven't been doing anything. Yet again, another stupid filibuster which people are going to praise, which doesn't do shit, and you let a bill pass which is going to strip so many Americans of their health care. Like, the Democratic Party is shit, has been shit for a long time, and people like me were saying that during the last election, whereas people like Eric Lang were telling you to vote for that shitty Democratic Party. But I'm glad he's finally coming around, but the only reason he's coming around now is because he sees how beloved Zohran Mamdani is, and if we didn't have a Zohran Mamdani, he would be the same asshole telling you again, like, oh yeah, just keep on voting for the Democrats and then work from the inside out, blah blah blah, which, as we've seen, doesn't fucking work. Like, no one is working from the inside out in the Democratic Party. Like, you want to keep on voting for these stupid losers who aren't even going to do anything in your interest, then by all means go ahead, but they're not working for you. They are working for the capitalist elite of this country. They are not working for the people. So yeah, so Eric Lang fucking needs to learn that and actually start you know, sticking to that, and not just when it becomes fucking popular to do so. But moving on from that, I want to talk about how he talks about Zohran Mamdani. And he made a post on Blue Sky recently about Zohran Mamdani in which he mentions, oh cool, a Muslim socialist, yeah, like I can get on board with that, like awesome. But yet again, he ignores one of the biggest things about Zohran Mamdani, which is of course no surprise because this is Eric Lang. He ignores the fact that Zohran Mamdani is openly pro-Palestine, openly anti-genocide, openly anti-Israel, and has made that abundantly clear. Like, when he was asked during the debates which country he would visit first as a mayor, and everyone said that they would visit Israel, Zohran Mamdani said no. Like, why would I visit Israel, which is using our taxpayers' money to commit a genocide? I'm an American, I'm not going to go visit Israel. And everyone was like, oh my god, how can you do this? Like, what the fuck? This is the United States of Israel that we are living in today. This is the United States of Israel. And if anyone thinks differently, you are completely blind to what is going on. But is Eric Lang going to talk about how Zohran Mamdani is pro-Palestinian? No, he has not once mentioned the genocide. So here we are in October, it'll be 2 years into this genocide, and yet again, Eric Lang has never condemned the genocide. He's never once said anything remotely to indicate that he is anti-genocide of the Palestinians. And now he's like, hopping on the Zoran Mamdani train, ignoring this huge part of Zoran Mamdani's identity, that he is pro-Palestinian, anti-genocide, anti-Israel. So yeah, no, I just kind of feel like shouting at Eric Lang, get his name out of your mouth. You don't deserve to say his name because you've been silent and complicit in this genocide for over a year now with your silence. I just really feel like shouting that at him. But of course, these people, they're just whatever. You can't reason with them. So a day ago, Eric Lang posted, from the U.S. Holocaust Museum, what distinguishes a concentration camp from a prison in the modern sense is that it functions outside of a judicial system. The prisoners are not indicted or convicted of any crime but by judicial process. I'm pretty sure that this is in reference to, because it's Eric Lang, about the alligator facility that's being built in Florida, that was built rather, because it was built very quickly. So in a place that was meant to be, if I remember correctly, I read an article, it was meant to be a prison, or it was meant to be an airport. I think it was an airport actually. There was a facility that was meant to be an airport in the Everglades, and it did not get actually turned into that, but the building itself was still there, and they've converted it into a prison, basically what looks like a concentration camp for all the people who are going to get rounded up by ICE and sent over there. And there's literally alligators being put around this facility so that people can't escape, because if they do, they will get eaten, attacked by alligators. This is the state of America today. And just for all you liberals and Democrats who voted for Kamala Harris, and think that the Democratic Party can stop this, your Democratic Party hasn't done shit. They could have stopped this. They could have, gathered up support. They could have tried to rally against this bill from being passed, but they didn't do shit. They literally didn't do shit, as usual. But my issue with Eric Lang's post is, yet again, he's using something from the Holocaust Museum to talk about something domestic when he's not yet once condemned the genocide, the ongoing Holocaust that is happening as we speak. Unbelievable. Seriously, it's just unbelievable how the lengths that Eric Lang will go to avoid upsetting his Zionist, publishers, designers, friends, the Zionists who line his pockets with money. Here is someone who will not stand up to, Zionism and the genocide because he's afraid of losing money. That's what a fucking sellout is. And, he will continue to praise people who in history were unafraid of what consequences they would face for standing up for the truth, for standing up for justice. But will Eric Lang do that? No, he will not. And his minions in the board game industry, who all claim to be for human rights, also will not do that. But I just want to sit here and kind of gloat about the fact that Zoran Mamdani is a Shia Muslim, and I'm just so happy, because as someone who was labeled as dangerous and problematic back in 2021 for being openly anti-Zionist, for being openly pro-Palestinian, which is why I was labeled all those things, that is when I was labeled dangerous and problematic. It wasn't when I went to Universal Studios and didn't wear a mask, which, by the way, was perfectly fine, and I kept my distance from people and all of that. I'm not going to go into all of that again, but I was labeled these things when I spoke up for Palestine and pointed out the fact that Helena Kappel is a fucking Zionist. That's when I was labeled dangerous and problematic. And, that was 4 years ago. That was 4 years ago when Israel was attacking Palestinians. And I pointed out that Zionism is an issue. And to this day, all the people who labeled me as problematic and dangerous haven't said shit about Palestine, when back then, in order to silence me, they claimed to be for Palestine. They were like, oh yeah, we care about Palestine. Palestine, but Sarah's only talking about Palestine for clout. She doesn't actually care. And then I had to like actually tell them my credentials and how I actually have a master's degree in Middle Eastern studies and actually studied the conflict at a graduate level. But apparently I was doing it for clout. What clout? Like to this day, what fucking clout have I gotten for being pro-Palestinian in an industry that does not give a shit about Palestine? Like truly, even those people who pretended in 2021 to give a shit about Palestine do not give a shit about Palestine today. Like that includes people like that guy from Shut Up, Sit Down. What's his name? The guy with the really like black curly hair, whatever his name is. I don't know his name now, but he was one of the people who unfollowed me, who at first was like, oh, great for Sarah for supporting Palestine. But then when he saw that everyone was like ganging up on me, he quickly unfollowed me and was like, oh yeah, Sarah, like it was dangerous. Like she shouldn't have done this, like blah, blah, blah. Like these people are just fucking sellouts. Don't remember that guy's name. But yeah, but there's like a whole bunch of them in this industry. Like look left, look right, look forward. Like you will find a Zionist fucking sellout and shill in the board game industry because there are so many of them. There are just fucking so many Zionist sellouts and shills. So yeah, so I am just going to gloat in the fact that these people who now are proud and happy about Zoran Mamdani winning, who is openly pro-Palestine, openly anti-Zionist, openly anti-Israel, has the same religion as I do. We share the same beliefs. We are very similar in a lot of ways, and that just makes me so happy. So the people that these assholes are happy about winning, like he has way more in common with me than he will ever with any of you fucking sellouts who will not speak up against Israel and will not speak up in favor of Palestine and will not speak up against the genocide. And as a Shia, I will just say that there is a very important holiday this weekend. So usually I shoot on a Sunday, but this week I'm shooting on a Saturday. I'm shooting on the Saturday before the day I would usually shoot, which is Sunday, because this Sunday is Ashura, which is a very important holiday for Shia Muslims. Holiday has such a positive connotation, by the way. Like when you say the word holiday, you think of like a happy holiday. Ashura is just quite the opposite. So Ashura is when we Shias commemorate the martyrdom of Prophet Muhammad's grandson. And the reason I'm talking about that is because it's very relevant to Palestine today. The reason so many Shias around the world are pro-Palestinian is because of Ashura. So Ashura was basically this battle of 72 people against an army of like 10,000 people. The 10,000 people were led by this very corrupt ruler called Yazid, who was part of the Sunni Caliphate at the time, whereas Hussein, the Prophet's grandson, and his small band of followers, which included a 6-month-old baby who was not even spared in this battle, they were fighting up against corruption. So Yazid wanted Hussein, who was the Shia's third imam. And imam in this sense is different from the word imam you hear every day. Like the imam at your local Sunni mosque is not what we mean when we say imam. Shias have 12 imams and they are all descendants of the Prophet. They were all what we believe to be spiritual successors to the Prophet, who were meant to continue to lead society spiritually. So Imam Hussein was our third imam, and he stood up to Yazid, who was a tyrant of the time, and he was killed. He was beheaded. His 6-month-old baby was beheaded. So many people were killed. The only reason the imamate continued was because Hussein's son was very sick and could not fight in this battle. So he was taken along as a prisoner after they were captured, and he was in prison with his aunt, and then he recovered and they were released, and so on and so on. But it's in this prison that Hussein's sister would tell stories and word got out about what happened and so on. So I'm just trying to give you a very abbreviated history of what happened and why it's relevant to today. So the largest pilgrimage that takes place in the world every day is not to Mecca, which, by the way, my sister and brother-in-law just completed because Hajj was very recent. And I just want to say that to the haters who keep on leaving comments on my profile, on my YouTube page, that I'm not a real Muslim, that I'm only pretending to be Muslim. Like I don't even know what the fuck those comments mean. Like, I've never just pretended to be Muslim. Like, I am a Muslim, and Hajj is very expensive. Like, it costs at least like $13,000 per person, which I have my own complaints about. Like, I hate the Saudi government and I hate what they have turned Hajj into. It's supposed to be affordable for everyone, but it's a very expensive trip to take. So my sister and brother-in-law were able to do it because they're very financially well off. So they were able to complete the pilgrimage. I don't think I'll ever be able to, but they were able to, thankfully. So anyway, getting back on track, I've totally gone off on a tangent here. But the largest pilgrimage that takes place every year is not to Mecca for Hajj or for the lesser pilgrimage, which is called Umrah. The largest pilgrimage that takes place every year is the 40th day after Ashura. So tomorrow is Ashura, which is the day that Imam Hussein was killed. And the 40th day after that, because Muslims mourn for 40 days. So when someone dies, we mourn for 40 days. And the 40th day after Ashura, millions upon millions of Shia Muslims will be in Karbala and make a pilgrimage to the shrine of Imam Hussein, which, by the way, I am going to in December. So I've purchased my tickets to Iraq, and hopefully if the world doesn't implode, if the region doesn't implode, I will be going. Like, I have my airline tickets for Iraq already for December, because it has been a lifelong dream for me to go to Karbala, to go to Imam Hussein's shrine. So I will be going there, inshallah, God willing, if everything is fine and the airspace is clear and planes can travel into Iraq. So why is this the largest pilgrimage in the world? Because Muslims around the world, and it's not just Shia Muslims, Hindus too. There are actually Hindus who make this pilgrimage, because there was a Hindu who saw what happened when this battle took place and spread the story to other Hindus. And so there is a group of Hindus actually that commemorate Ashura every year as well, because it's a really powerful story of a small group of people standing up for what they believe in, sticking to their ideals, not bowing down to someone powerful, not bowing down to materialism or capitalism, which is everything that Yazid stood for. And he wanted the Prophet's grandson to pledge allegiance to him. And Hussein was like, hell no, you don't represent Islam. You represent everything that is against Islam. So he stood up to him. As a result, he was killed. His 6-month-old baby was killed and beheaded, and just a really sad story. So we as Shia Muslims and other people who know about the story commemorate this every year. And one of the most important sayings from this event is, every day is Ashura, every land is Karbala. That means every day you are fighting an oppressor. Every day you are fighting tyrants around the world. Every land is Karbala. Like, there are oppressors in every corner of the earth. There is oppression in every corner of the earth, and you as a person should be fighting against it. And that's what we Shias believe. And how does this tie back to Palestine? Because the biggest supporters of Palestine are Shias. So if you look around at which Arab countries or countries in the Middle East, because Iran is not an Arab country, it's a Persian country, if you look at which countries are actually fighting for Palestine, or which groups of people are fighting for Palestine, it's always Shias. Hezbollah, Shia. It's a resistance group in southern Lebanon. They are Shia. And again, if you view Hezbollah as a terrorist group, just compare the numbers. See how many people Hezbollah have killed unintentionally, because they never target civilians intentionally, and see how many people the IOF have killed. Yet, we will see throughout history that resistance fighters, like for example, Malcolm X or Nelson Mandela, they were labeled as terrorists at one point in history. It's only after they achieved what they were meant to achieve and the world was like, oh yeah, like apartheid is bad, that they became known as resistance fighters or freedom fighters and so on. So Hezbollah, Shia, the Houthis in Yemen, Shia, Iran, Shia. So these are the three groups that you have seen fighting for Palestine, and they are all Shia, because every day is Ashura and every land is Karbala. And the Zionists know that. The Zionists know that you cannot and will not break the spirit and the belief of Shia Muslims. Like, we take Ashura to heart. It is like one of the most important things for us. And for me, honestly, even as a Shia Muslim, I can say 100% that, like, I would rather go to Karbala than Mecca. Like, it is obligatory for me as a Muslim to go to Mecca, but putting money aside, even not being able to, even if I were able to afford going to Hajj and going to Mecca, I would still rather go to Karbala first, because the story of Karbala, the story of Ashura is so important to me, has always been, and I've commemorated it every day of my life since I've, known about it. I'm someone who, I was very fortunate to be born Shia and be born a descendant of Prophet Muhammad, but I still read as many books as I could to learn more and more. I'm extremely well read about my religion. I'm well read about the Sunni sect of Islam, so that I've read books about, their beliefs. I've, compared, I've read, a lot of their stuff in order to confirm my own beliefs, because that's what you should do. You shouldn't always just read your own stuff. You should read other perspectives, and which can then, confirm and make your own beliefs stronger, which it has for me. So for me, I'm a very proud Shia Muslim, and it just makes me so happy that Zohran Mamdani is Shia, and that the world is actually dancing and celebrating a Shia Muslim being elected for the primary candidate for the mayoral election. And so all the people in the board game industry who call me dangerous and problematic can suck it. Like, yay. Yeah, so that's all I wanted to say. So that is my rant of the week. So if you're still silent about the genocide, you are fucking complicit, and get Zohran Mamdani's name out of your mouth if you are still silent about the genocide, because you don't deserve to say his name. You are nothing like Zohran if you are not standing up against Zionism, and you are not standing up against the terrorist state of Israel. So get Zohran Mamdani's name out of your fucking mouth, because you don't deserve to say it then. Okay, so that is my rant of the week. So let's move on. This week's question of the week is inspired by Red Carpet. What other games require you to use a phone? And I don't mean just use it in order to check a solution like the search for Planet X. Like, this game really requires every single player to have a phone. You need to be able to take a photograph, use your phone, position it on the board, and so on. What other games do you know that are like that? And do you want to play games like that, or would you rather avoid them? And if you don't mind, what other games do you know that require you to use a phone that you actually don't mind and that maybe you even like? Please list them in the comments below. But please let me know your thoughts about having to use a phone in order to play this game. And until next week, bye.